walk to the middle of the avenue of eternal peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today we're going to talk about, have you ever heard the expression, hard times make hard men, and then good times make soft men, and then soft men make hard times? It's kind of one of those endless cycles that kind of goes throughout history. And I got to say, my experience looking at history, Kevin, you're a big fan of history, and it does seem to be a recurring cycle. It does seem to happen. Now, me and Kevin were talking about this a little bit before when we were planning this, and I think we have varying degrees of which point in the scale that we're at right now. But there's definitely some changes going on in society.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree on that. It's just, I guess, where in the curve we really are. So, as always, it's your kind of thing, and you appreciate the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, comments, that kind of thing. We always appreciate it. But let's just kind of jump into it. So, one of the big things that always kind of concerns me is our education system. But there's a lot of things going on in society right now that really reflect, I don't know, that have inspired these thoughts for me. I guess that's the answer. Have brought concern to me. Basically, we have the schools and things are in crisis. There's right now in 2023, they said there are 50,000 teacher vacancies. But the reason you have vacancies is because the average teacher salary is like $40,000 and you require a master's degree to be a teacher. So you don't have a lot of incentive. You kind of have to do it for the love of it. People argue.
It costs about $65,000 to get a master's degree. It's not like a low cost thing. And if you have to pay that back, $40,000 a year salary isn't going to do it,
No. And that's where it's concerning. And the thing is, that was the deal, is that was the average teacher salary. And it's like, ooh, now I know Kevin's up in New York. They seem to take care of their teachers up there. At least they did when I left.
$85,000 a year is the average income for a teacher.
Right. Which I legitimately, one of my friend's wives is a teacher here in North Carolina, and she makes $22,000 a year in a public school. And I'm like, how? That doesn't even make sense. Like that, and you're going to require a master's degree for that, really? And that, now again, there are people who do it for the love of it, but I feel like I looked up poverty level, and poverty level, it's average about 30,000 for kind of a family. And it varies. I'll throw the stats up for you, but basically in 2025, according to it's on the Health and Human Services website, a family of four, it looks like 32,150 is the poverty line for a family of four. Now, I was thinking about that though. If you have kind of grown kids living in your house, are you a family of four? Because when you file your taxes, you're filing two, like married couple.
Right. I mean, if your kids are employed and they're paying you rent, it's really not, you're living in the same house and you're a family, but it's not really,
it definitely is the combined household income, no doubt. So we'll go with that.
Right.
But I find that concerning. But yeah, there is a lot going on. So one, teachers, right? So obviously you're getting people who love doing it, but then clearly we're seeing a shortage. And I got to say, people kind of feel like you're cheating your family if you earn less than your potential, right? Because that money is used to provide for your family. And I feel like it's wrong to but that's kind of me. I mean, I understand I don't need to work and be a slave to the world and work nonstop just so I can have more stuff that I don't need. I don't need 10 accounts for different streaming services. I could probably get by with one or two. And, things like that, right? It all depends what we need out of life. But I got to say, it's really hard in modern times to get by where it's at. So that's, I guess, the big debate here. Let's kind of jump into that. First is where are we in the cycle? Now, I feel like right now it's pretty easy to live and get by. And what I mean by that, I mean, I know we're all struggling. I know a lot of people. Everyone I know works tons of overtime, has multiple jobs, if they're working. And then the other half of people are not working and whatever. So we're going to kind of jump into that. It's the people out there producing the income for the families are working hard. And I don't think in any way it's easy for that. I think when I say things are easy, I mean there's a reasonable cushion. There does seem to be affordable health care for if you don't earn money. But whereas if you do earn money, healthcare is ridiculous. Then it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, healthcare is generally tied to your job. So, as long as you're employed, you'll be okay, right? So
And
if you get cancer and you have a job, right? You go to work, pays for your healthcare. So when you're going through chemotherapy, you just have to keep working through it. Otherwise, you don't get your healthcare. And you
just work harder.
So just work right through it. And as you're on death's door, just keep going to work.
There you go. Just never stop being a slave, And the longer you're willing to keep fighting to make money for the man, then it,
right.
Then it's going to be okay. That's one of the things, though. Like you say, it comes from work, but a huge percentage of your paycheck typically gets taken out for, to pay for your health care. It's not.
Right.
It's not
You're
like
still paying
it's
for
free, right?
Yeah.
Like, you make $20 an hour, but we're charging you $180 every 2 weeks, for your health care, and you have a deductible of,
Yeah, it's usually $10,000 deductible. Which
that
realistically, if somebody in your household gets sick, like long-term illness, you lose the income that they were bringing in, and second, you have to shell out an extra 10 grand a year for the expenses that health care doesn't cost. So if you do everything right, you still have a good chance of going bankrupt if somebody in your family gets sick.
And that's it. So just to make it work, I think a lot of people are putting in hard hours and doing hard work and doing a lot. So I don't misunderstand me, because I know I'm out there doing it, every day, and Kevin's out there doing it every day. And, we're working on weekends and we're working late hours and we're getting up early in the morning, and, that happens, right? There is no doubt. There are people putting in hard time, but then there's like a whole other half of people who are younger who are not putting in the hard time. I have some stats here. All right, here we go. So in 2023, because this is the last that I have good stats from, 80% of 25 to 34-year-olds were employed. So 80%, that sounds good. It varies by education. It's 88% with bachelor's degree or higher versus 60% with just a high school diploma are out there working. Now, not working 20 to 30-year-olds, it's 14% of 20 to 24-year-olds were neither employed nor in school in 2022. Now, 14%, that's actually a pretty significant number. 10% of 18 and 19-year-olds not employing. Let's see, 85% of 25 to 34-year-old males are employed, whereas 76% of females were employed. So there is that gender gap, but I feel like that percentage could be tied to having kids, families. Like, I feel like that's the age of that happening.
I mean, that seems reasonable. Between 18 and 25, that seems like a reasonable time to be unemployed as a female if you're, if
Right.
you're raising kids. But I mean, I think a big gap is growing, in that sort of stuff. If you work for, say a gas station or a minimum wage paying type of job,
Yeah.
I don't want to disparage gas station clerks, but your rent is going up, your cost of living is going up, inflation's going up, grocery prices have gone up 130% in the past 4 years, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. So you can work 60 hours a week and still not be able to afford your bills, right? Or you could not work and still not be able to afford your bills. It doesn't make any difference at a certain point. Like,
Yeah.
why bother?
No, I mean 100%. I feel like when I look at the numbers, I'm like, wow, I'm a pretty good earner now. I'm finally making money.
Mhm.
And it's almost impossible to get through the month without like using a credit card and whatever. And I have shifted my entire life to, because I started out, if you guys been following this, I used to have like a decent amount of credit card debt and made bad choices early on and things like that. People buy stuff they don't need, whatever. And I've shifted my life around and gotten out of that. And it took forever. And I'm getting older. And now I'm finally at the point where I'm like, cool, no credit card debt, no issues. But I also still drive, we have old cars in the driveway, right? The newest car the newest car we have is a 2011. So, I mean, it's,
Right.
we're not exactly living the high life. But that's because I'm determined to not have a car payment, because
Right.
in my mind, I can't afford it. If I have
Yeah.
a car payment and full coverage on my car, I need credit cards to live if I live like that. Right. So to me, that's unreasonable. And, society shouldn't be that way. Right. It's hard. It is really hard to make it work. But I also worry about the flip side of that. Is the older generation like still going and then the younger generation is not? And I guess that's where a lot of this worry started from, is are they carrying their share? Is it going to create that really soft times where there's kind of a lot of people sitting around and looking at their phones or, on the internet all day and not really doing something, or not really willing to do a job that's like hard work?
Right.
There's also a lot of stats with like health. The younger generation is a lot less healthy apparently as far as being able to be employed.
Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons for that, right?
Talk to me.
I mean, we do a lot of shows on purifying water and securing clean water when it's not coming out of the tap. But you used to be able to just drink out of a stream. You can't do that now because it's infected. It's full of viruses, giardia. It's full of human waste.
Right.
I just read a news article about the Hudson River, which is, just a few miles from here. And they find human feces in it everywhere they sample, just because people don't clean out their septic tanks and it washes out there. Right. It's also full of PFOAs, which is, forever chemicals.
Right.
Which is in almost everybody's drinking water.
Well, especially since we're all drinking out of plastic bottles, right?
Right. Causes severe. Well, that's a whole different thing.
Oh,
PFOAs causes like severe health issues, and you've got it in you. 97% of people tested have PFOAs in their bloodstream. So
now, what is that then? If I was thinking the plastic bottle stuff, obviously I'm wrong. So what
PFOAs is it's a forever chemical developed by DuPont, and they just dumped it because there were no regulations about it. So they just dumped it wherever they wanted to, and nobody did anything about it until it was too late, and they realized, oh, it's causing like severe kidney damage, liver damage, cancer, facial deformities in babies, like all sorts of awful shit.
That is awful.
You know, it's in you. You've got it. You're poisoned with it. How much you got in your bloodstream, I don't know, but I mean, it's not good.
Right.
And then also, like you said, microplastics. It's in drinking water, whether you get it out of a tap or out of a bottle. You
Right.
know, it's more likely in the
In
bottled
the bottle,
water.
but
Right. Microplastics. And what does that do? Well, there's not a lot of research on what exactly that does because everybody has it in them.
So
So
you
there's
don't
no
have a
like control
baseline,
group.
right?
You can't test it. Yeah. There is a significant data that suggests that possibly it's causing like lead. When you get lead in your body, what it does is it clogs up receptors in your brain and causes your brain chemicals to the chemicals in your brain to not be balanced properly. Microplastics do the same thing, but it seems like it's causing issues with development as far as like physical and sexual development. And there's a correlation between microplastics and the shrinking of the human taint.
Ooh,
That's right. I said
that
it.
isn't good,
The
Kevin.
space between your balls and your butthole is getting smaller.
And you
So
don't want them too close. I mean, that's going to be a problem.
eventually that becomes a problem, right? So it's getting smaller every year, which also seems like it's correlated with low fertility. And you say, why aren't kids having babies today? Well, maybe they're
Low
not able to.
fertility.
You
Yeah,
know?
maybe they're trying. You know,
Because
I don't know.
we filled all the water, you know, all the waterways with microplastics, and it's in your food too. So don't worry about it. It's not like
Although,
you get your water and
yeah,
you'll be all right. It's
but
everywhere.
I feel like the percentage of boys getting pregnant is higher than it used to be. So
It does seem like that's changed.
So those odds, you know, are on the improve, on the upswing. So, you know, we have that going for us as a society.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, who knows? You do you, right?
Right.
I keep seeing talk shows about it. Although, did I hear that The View is maybe going away? Did I see a news article?
I don't know, but
I
I when I was in the Navy years ago, I used to watch The View because I would get out of work, you know, in the morning after PT, go get showered, changed, and go back to work. And I had two channels, and one had The View, and one had Barney. So
I like Barney. You know,
Barney wasn't bad. It was a toss up. Really, I couldn't really make a firm decision on it.
Right.
But
I gotta say, I did so when I was in New York. I did like in home repair, like fixing fridge, stove, whatever, that kind of stuff, and I'd be in different houses every day, and it seemed like I couldn't go to a house in the morning whenever The View's on without The View being on. You know, it would be like the background noise in the
of every
house while
house.
I'm doing it. And so I would always catch my morning View with, you know, see how Whoopi was doing and keep an eye on things. But that's how I stay fresh, right? That's how I know what's going on in the world.
Right. That's right. Whoopi's got a view on everything, man.
It is hard. But again, now, and a lot of that we were talking about health, but there's a lot going on with, you know, people had higher percentages of depression and anxiety after 2019 and whatever happened back then. And that staying isolated and stuff did not help people.
No.
And it did not, you know, I mean, you know,
Depression
you could
increased,
argue other
alcoholism increased.
effects. Like, I feel like this whole episode, you can't ever talk anything medical as far as YouTube. I keep reading the retraining and the guidelines because we get strikes every week and whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like we just can't mention anything. And I feel like we just ride it till we can't. But you know, yeah. So there is a lot going on with social issues. And I feel like it wasn't just 2019. I feel like it's also the social media and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying it has to all be bad, but definitely people are wasting hours that you could be doing other things. Now, did people in the 80s watch 10 hours of television growing up sometimes? Yeah, that happened too. There were
Hmm.
kids doing that.
Right.
And honestly, I don't even know if like reading a book is better. In my mind, it is because you're creating a story. Like,
Hmm.
when you read a story, obviously you're like, well, no, Chuck, somebody else created the story. That's why it's in a book. But you fill the background and you fill the images and you're developing in your mind, in my theory, right?
Hmm.
And so you're stimulating the mind's eye, whereas it's all kind of force fed to you, like right there. Now, obviously, I feel like there's very educational things you could watch on TV or watch on the internet. I guess TikTok has that STEM section where it's the science, technology, and math or whatever. And it really like has very knowledgeable stuff. But I find even if I look at that, I'm like, I have a hard time. Like I can watch some and I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, I got to go back to something a little less
Got to
intense.
go back to some Barney.
Yeah, I just got to go back to Barney. That's really the safety net of all of us.
Hmm.
Um, Now, Kevin, you were painting a little different picture. I seem to think that there were a lot of households with everybody inside sitting there, looking at their cell phones and easy, cush. Well, a few people are kind of carrying it. But you said when you're out taking care of water plants, you come across a lot of different people in different walks. And there are definitely some people going through some real hard times right now.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
do
that's
you how do
that's
you
true.
see it?
Well, I mean, I think about it this way. Let's, start with the national debt. The national debt right now is
It's
$7 trillion.
huge.
37 trillion. That's with a T, right?
That's
That
a lot.
the annual interest payment on that in 2024 was $88 billion. 2025, it's going to be $925 billion just to pay the interest, not paying the national debt off. So the kids that are coming up today are already in debt. They're inheriting the debt that they didn't receive any of the benefit of that extra money that the boomers got for not just kicking it down the road. They're they're already in the hole just coming into the workforce, right? Their taxes are going to go up and their benefits are going to decrease compared to previous generations because they're going to have to. I mean, that's close to 952 is close to 10% of the national budget just to
Right.
pay
Well,
the interest on the debt, not even to pay the debt off.
right. Just for the interest, I just did the math. If there's 330 million Americans, which is the number I seem to
Hmm.
remember, whether it's right on or not, I know we're somewhere around over 300
Right.
million. That's 267 $267 per year that you have to pay
just to
just to
just to
maintain the
maintain the
interest.
interest.
But that's babies and
Yeah.
everybody, right? So that means if there's four of you in your family and you have one person earning, that's $1,066 in a year in
In
government interest.
taxes
And that's not,
that aren't going
yeah.
to benefit you in any way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That is no benefit.
Right. And that's
That is
interest.
other
Right.
people's. You're paying other people's debt.
Yeah. Other people's debt. And not only that, you got to remember, while at the same time, they're still spending.
Right. It's still going up every
And
year.
and that's not, yeah, well, it's going up, but I was just saying they're still spending, meaning you have to take care of the day to
Mhm.
day. Then
Right.
obviously, Kevin, we just need bigger tariffs on
You
people.
need to start fucking working harder. You're not paying enough taxes. Did you know that you can pay as much taxes as you want? You have to pay the
You're
minimum
allowed?
of what you're owed.
Okay.
But you can like top it up. You can add another $20,000 and just send it to the government. They'll take it.
Well, let me just send them the
Yeah.
extra 1,066. Let's start
Mhm.
there.
If you send them an extra
And then we'll,
1,067, they can put that
yeah,
dollar towards the
a little
towards the
principal. You
principal,
get
right?
ahead.
That'll only take, what, 337 trillion years or 37 trillion
That's
years.
always, I feel like when everybody gets a mortgage, and maybe they don't, maybe I'm the only person who thinks like this, but they're like, ooh, I can make a little extra every payment and get ahead. But in your mind, you're like, oh, I think the rule is they say you want to make like an extra payment a year. Right. It is the good rule. Now, I'm saying good rule. I'm not saying what I do or can do. Right. So then I was like, well, let's just make it an extra 200 a payment. And now I'm like, let's just make it $50 this month.
Yeah.
Let's, you know what? I could even it to like, if it ends in 43, let's make it end in 50.
Yeah.
Let's round it up.
Then
We'll
you
just
round it
call
up
a
to
good
change.
$7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm gonna get ahead. But
yeah, you just keep working.
It's like, well, my mortgage interest is lower than my credit card interest or whatever, right? Obviously. Yeah. I just man, it is hard. But you feel like it never ends if you don't try and get ahead, so you don't know where to go with that. But maybe I'm
so I mean, and kids are having a hard time as far as buying a house. Like, good luck with that. You're never going to be able to afford that. The average house now costs $512,000. So that's $500,000 for a house. You need to come up with 20%. Right? That's $100,000 in cash in your bank that you can give to buy a house.
All right. They say that it shouldn't exceed 28% of your gross income to buy a house with principal, tax, and interest.
What's that at? I can't. It's
I'm trying to get there. I was trying to bring up the stats because I've been seeing what they say that the money required to buy a house. But of course now and obviously that varies.
Average income is $66,000 household income. That's, husband and wife both working or whatever.
All right.
$66,000, $600.
All right, here we go. The average income based on location, but generally requires a household average income of over $100,000 in many U.S. metropolitan.
There you go.
Areas.
It's a big word.
Words are hard, Kevin. There was a lot of letters in there. I didn't know what to do, but yeah. So, all right, you got to make $100,000 a year if you want to buy a house.
The average house.
I know a lot of people making $100,000 a year who probably couldn't afford to buy a house, and because car payments are like $700 or whatever. That's
and the average income is $66,000. So the average person can't afford the average house. That's how it works out.
That's
so and, it is what it is as far as work harder, right? Work harder. Meanwhile, people are getting laid off of the jobs. AI is taking their jobs. So what are you going to do?
Right. Well, and that's one of the things. You see cool guys like Mike Rowe or something. I think he's got a lot of important things to say, honestly, and brings awareness to stuff. But, we do such a bad job of encouraging the trades and things like that. Those are the jobs that are going to go away slower with AI than other stuff, right? You're still going to need people to wire stuff up, right? Like electricians or plumbers to run that physical plumbing. I feel like it's intricate that AI is going to take a long time before they can get there with the plumbing. Although technology is changing all the time. Have you seen these, the Japanese have a robot that's like the Terminator 3, whatever one, the guy that
change shape and stuff.
Change shape. Yeah. They're already there. They're like, we do it with magnetic metal and it can change to and I'm like, that's pretty crazy. I feel like you'd need a rigid form, but I guess it doesn't. Like it just whatever. So they can make some kind of liquid metal, mercury looking shapes. That's crazy. But so my point is technology is going where I feel like people won't have to physically do plumbing, that we'll be able to change something in the future. But in my mind, it's still 20, 30 years away. Maybe it's not, because man, the world is shifting all the time. And what I mean is, no, you probably won't have AI or robots working out plumbing, drilling holes through 2x4s and snaking wires. I'm saying something might change in how we get it, how we approach it. And it could just be very different.
And you don't have to have $55,000 worth of debt for going to college for a degree you might not be able to use, you know?
And that's what I'm worried about is like right now, people are they're actually teaching skills that are going to be gone by the time that you finish your 4-year
Right.
degree. And it's like, that was kind of a bad
Mhm.
choice.
Well, I
And
mean,
hopefully people are,
realistically, it's kind of a bad choice to give a $50,000 loan to an 18-year-old, you know? That's a bad
now let's
choice.
talk about that.
Yeah,
That's a
it's a
bad
bad choice
choice.
because if I was 22-year-old and I owed $50,000 of debt for a degree that I can't use, I'm not going to pay that back. You made a bad financial decision.
No.
Yeah, you need to learn your lesson. You made a bad decision by
Yeah, but
loaning me that money.
Kevin, you took that loan and you're
At
responsible.
18,
Isn't that the
at
adult
18, you're
answer at
responsible.
18?
What
You made a lot of
18-year-old
good
that you
choices at
know that has
18,
ever
didn't
been
you?
responsible?
I don't know. I seem to remember paying for 18 more years of a life based on decisions that I made when I was 17 or
Mhm.
18. And maybe it wasn't the best play like
Right.
at the time. Like I could have waited till a more efficient
Mhm.
time, right? To do that. But what are you going to do, right?
That's right. That's right. That's all going down the crapper, buddy.
I don't know. It's an ugly world. But yeah, so I feel like the schools aren't preparing,
Mhm.
right, as well as they could for the world. And I feel like that was always the case. I think that, like, if you were taking marketing classes, they were teaching like traditional ways. And I think you get that. Like people say, well, a 4-year degree, it doesn't matter what your degree was in. The fact that you were able to follow through and complete something has value. And I think that
Mhm.
does. I think and the fact that you were able to pay for it, but the problem is most people didn't pay
Right.
for it, says something about you, that you were able to organize without maybe mom and dad just paying for it. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that's something that happens, but it doesn't really show accomplishment on your part. It shows that maybe your parents made good financial decisions and hopefully some of that rubbed off
Mhm.
on you. How about we take it like
All right.
that, Kevin? Yeah, mom and dad, like they used to, when you got a credit score, it would be based, I know when I was a kid, it was based on your parents' credit score kind of
Until
thing.
you made
Like, but like your starting
Mhm.
point was kind of based on your parents. And if your parents had a really crappy score, it affected how yours was going to be, even if you hadn't made bad
Right. So
decisions yet.
you're already
And it's, yeah,
handicapped by
kind of
having poor
pre-shaped.
parents.
Right. Right. 100%. So it's something, your parents made good decisions. So, I don't know. It just is crazy how, but let's shape it a little bit more. So if everything is kind of easy, nobody's working, yet we don't have money to pay for anything. I know I go to the grocery store and I'm like, oh my God, I just got
Yeah.
wiped out,
Yeah.
I'm buying food for a week for 4 people and it costs me $400. So that's it. It's about $100 a person for a week if you're trying to be reasonably
Right.
healthy, right? I mean, obviously we can all just buy boxes of cereal that are on sale and,
Mhm.
kind of live off that. If we eat just cereal and like milk, like the real milk, not the milk that lasts
Oh,
forever,
the almond milk.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
The nut
yeah, I'm not
milk.
talking bougie milk. Right, right. But the other, well, even that Fairlife, that it's actually owned by Coca-Cola, believe it or not. And that's actually what I end up buying and drinking because we drink like a half a gallon like every 2.5 weeks at my house of
Mhm.
milk because everyone's kind of an
Yeah.
adult. And you just kind of lose interest in that. But so for that milk to stay fresh, you gotta
You gotta
buy
stretch
something
it out.
that's not really
Mhm.
real milk, right?
You can get
And
condensed
you
milk
have to
and add water, and it tastes like shit.
there you
So
go.
there's that.
There you go. You could do that. Yeah, that we all have
Uh-huh.
options, right? I don't know. It's crazy. Now another thing, we have events going on all over the world, right? Things shaping. And you watch these videos of kids in China and they're like assembling guns in the school and whatever and like learning skills and things. I don't know if that's the skill we want kids learning these days. But what is that crazy? Is it like, are we going to get passed by where, I mean, I was saying, I feel like our education is not keeping on par with where it should be, right? Um, and I just maybe mean categories. I think one of the things I read in one of the studies was we're more focused on teaching ideology than we are on practical knowledge. And it's actually hurting and taking away from getting
like
there.
religion and
But I don't know.
things like that.
Well, I say ideology. I mean, I'm talking about the whole gender and teaching people the, different ways of how life should be. I feel like there's way more focused on your sexual orientation and all this stuff than
I
there
don't know,
used to
I don't know
be,
what
like
school you're
by
going
any
to.
stretch. Well, I go to the
Oh,
good
okay.
ones, that's why. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot going on in there that they're not, and I think like cultural bias and things like that seems to be the focus more so than the math, science, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading
Yeah,
it.
well, I know there's a big push on like right-wing media to tell everybody that there's trannies everywhere, and there's like all sorts of weird sexual shit going on. They're obsessed with like weird, like it's titillating, right? Thinking about it's chicks with dicks, bro. Like, ooh, no, it's fucking
Kevin,
gross. It's fucking gross that people are
it sounds
obsessed with
gross.
that, and it seems like that's all Fox News talks about is they're obsessed with it. They're fucking obsessed with it, and they hear about one little story about one crazy person, and they're like, "This is what everybody thinks." Used to be, you'd hear a crazy person say some crazy shit, and be like, "Oh, you're a crazy person." But now they're like, everyone thinks that. See that one crazy
That's the
person?
one.
Everyone thinks that same thing.
That's not wrong. The media cycle and the way it all goes is like crushing people. It's like crazy, and you're
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
if we're leaving,
You do you. You're not wrong. It does escalate.
so what are we leaving our kids here? Aside of like, poison water,
Debt,
poison ocean, massive amounts of debt, housing crisis, underpaid jobs. Well, we're leaving them a republic, right?
There
except,
you go. They still have freedom, Kevin. They can still buy
except
guns.
for the 14th Amendment and the 6th Amendment.
I mean that one.
And the 5th Amendment. Right? But we have to fucking protect the pedophiles, bro. Somebody's got to stand up for the pedophiles. Somebody's got to take care of them and make sure they're safe. And nobody thinks about the pedophiles that are out there raping kids. Nobody thinks about that.
Yeah.
How hard their life is, right? We have to protect them. We have to make sure that they're safe. Yeah. And, we're doing a good job of that. So that's cool.
Oh, no doubt. Now, imagine, though, you have multiple kids going to college, and obviously you want to set up your kids just right, and you want them to have success in life. So like you said, you don't want them to go into the workforce or the world with a ton of debt. Nobody wants that, right? And you don't want to set them up where they're just going to. So if you're trying to help them get through it or make it work out, you have an ugly task ahead of you because money would be really tight trying to put, and they all seem to hit together. People usually try and keep their kids like within 4 years apart
so
on
as soon
average.
as you get done with one,
you just don't want to be doing it your entire life, right? You don't want to be raising kids, but maybe you do. Maybe that's what you love. Maybe you need them helping out. Like if you live on the farm and your kids are doing the work, you got to keep making it, you keep snapping them out. But I don't know. Now, another thing, so we have these health scares. We had the big COVID thing, and they tried to get it to really hit where, like, I still go places now, and they're like, are you experiencing symptoms from, the current virus or whatever? And I'm like, what? Huh? What are you talking? We're still worried about that, but I guess people are. I don't know. When I went to the doctor like 2 days ago, and they were like, stop, you can't come in here if you're, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the modern world. So there's rumors of stuff going on in China. They're having a round 2 of all this.
I didn't hear about it. I mean, I vaguely heard something about it, but I guess there's something going on. I mean, bro, anytime you're in a society where you're like eating fucking bats and monkeys and shit. Like, stuff happens. You know what I mean? Like, stuff happens, bro.
Well, they always seem to have, like, remember they had the swine flu and all the, like, they have such a dense population that anything kind
It
of
just spreads fast. Yeah.
goes crazy over there. And, that kind of stuff. It really can be a lot of stress. But you don't know, I mean, that's supposedly right. Why we have, all those organizations, our government, the world government seems to have different organizations that worry about these things. But I feel like, how much can we trust them? I don't know. I just don't know. Right. I feel like sometimes we get good news, sometimes we don't. And you just have to kind of move in faith that, well, it's going to be okay.
Well, I mean,
All you can do is take care of your, self, and take care of your own family, take your vitamins, whatever. But what vitamins are right this week? I have no idea. I'm not that guy, because that changes on the regular as well,
yeah, there's a weird thing with diseases though, because if there's a high mortality rate, what was it? The NH3, I can't remember exactly what the virus was, but it was like a 70% of the people that contracted it died. And so it just died out. You know what I mean? Like, you can't spread it if everyone's
Right.
dying, right? COVID had a
Right.
1% fatality rate, which that's why it was able to spread through the whole world, because most of the people survived it and were able to pass it on to the next host.
Well, I think one of the big factors too is how long do you have before symptoms and
That's a
things
good
like
point.
that, So if you have, like, what is it? They call it an incubation
Right.
period,
You could be
right?
spreading it
Where-
for a week before you even know you're sick.
And that's where you kind of get into real danger. And then too, but yeah, there's a lot of factors, and I don't know. I feel like that episode would never make it on the internet if we dug deep into how, those things spread. I need to probably bring in some doctors. We get, like, mass harassment for guests every day. Like, dude, I get asked, hey, will you take this person? And it's weird. Like, I just got one that they're like, oh, look, they were on all these, famous talk shows, and, they were all shows I recognized, and I watched, and I was like, yeah, it's too boring. I can't do that. I can't bring, that on my show. And I'm too protective, but maybe we need some outside insight. Somebody was just asking me about gas masks, and one of our big sponsors is a gas mask provider kind of thing. I'll put them in the show notes. But the thing is, I think I need to bring them on to talk about it, because turns out I don't know what really works and what's effective and whatever. And I'm not the authority to tell somebody, but I think they're maybe the guest I need to bring in so we can get to the bottom of it. Because, Kevin, then you can be protected from all these things. That's the beauty of it. I don't know. So if you guys have show ideas, concerns, want to tell us about the state of everything in the world, we would be happy to hear about it in the comments, or you can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com.
Yeah, we do actually read your emails if you send us an email.
We're pretty good about it. We take a few days sometimes to get back, but who doesn't really? That's what I say. So anyway, I would say with that, I'd say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.